All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Super excited to be back on here on another beautiful snowy Wednesday outside.
I
If you're
wouldn't
new
call
here,
it fall.
that was I was being facetious. But if you're new here, and if you're not new here, welcome back. But if you are new here, please like and subscribe. We talk about the Canadian economy and the Canadian real estate market. Those are our two topics we like to touch on. We just talk about what we see going on, and hopefully it helps you guys make better decisions. Anyways, Brooke, how are you? What's going on?
I'm okay. It's pretty gloomy out there today.
What sucks?
Yeah, it's a
It's
good
like you're
reflection
looking to
of the market.
yeah, gloomy market. I mean, you
Yeah.
know what the funny thing is that we're coming. It's like December 10th, and you're just hitting that point of like Christmas parties and like
Oh, yeah.
people really checking out and stuff like that. So it's tough if you do have listings. And people like want showings. It's pretty tough to imagine you're going to get showings right now, like historically. So if you are getting showings as a seller, that's a pretty good sign that you have a good property.
Yeah, or you've listed low. I'm following a property right now for a buyer. They listed it at 888. It's probably worth $1 million. It has a couple offers on it right now. So it's funny to
Hmm.
see that strategy working in this market. It's funny.
Yeah, I think it. If you list something low enough, it'll always sell. You know what I mean?
Probably not for what
um,
people are probably going to come in around
yeah,
asking price. So I wouldn't
with,
necessarily use that
with
strategy.
conditions.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
What's going on with you? How's business? How's work? How's everything going in
Um,
real estate? Any
yeah.
stories?
This week has been a tougher week, I'll be completely honest. It's been a lot of tough conversations, especially with sellers that are approaching the end of the 3-month typical listing contract, where, we either renew, change the price, that sort of thing. And those are hard conversations to have because sellers that, I guess, are not resulting in a sale right away, sometimes they think switching up the agent and that's the solution. So I'm a little discouraged from a couple different sellers that I'm working with, having staged the listing, paying for extensions every month, presenting it in the best way that house could have been presented. I mean, when it came to me and what I presented it as was two different things. So it's tough to be a realtor. I was putting that on my Instagram story yesterday, and I had probably about 50 to 60 people respond to my story when I just said, I'm going to be honest here for a second. It is really tough to be a realtor right now because people, and not everybody, there's a good chunk of people that know it's not always your realtor's fault, but there are people that blame their realtor or like to switch up the agent and see if that does the trick. And yeah, so I've had a little bit of a discouraging week. That being said, uh, it is the holidays. So my listing's not getting showings right now doesn't necessarily concern me as if, it were November or October. I've told all my sellers I wouldn't expect a lot of activity around this time. If a showing does happen, let's take it seriously because let's be honest, nobody's going out in this weather right now just to check out or look at a home that they're not actually interested in. So yeah, it's definitely rocked me a little bit, this market, because 'cause we're used to selling things at a way faster pace, so even the conversation changes with my sellers, and they're saying, "What are you doing differently that this week compared to last week to get this sold?" And sometimes it's not a matter of posting a video 6 times on LinkedIn and twice on Instagram and 4 times on Facebook. It's just that we haven't found our buyer yet because buyer activity is so low. And even when I checked, it's just in front of me here, the stats in month over month, or sorry, year over year for November heading into December. I would say Burlington Oakville is my primary market, Hamilton as well. So I don't want to exclude Hamilton, but Halton and Hamilton. So just for Halton, where is this? Sorry. So in Halton, there is a 39.3 decrease in number of sales, 17% decrease in number of new listings, 16% increase
Wow,
in inventory, and there is a 5.3 months of supply, which is a 91.9% increase year over year, which those
my
are some
God.
pretty crazy statistics. No,
Those are some ugly numbers.
those are some crazy numbers. Usually you see
Yeah.
5%, even a 10% decrease or increase is like, whoa, that's a big change. But these numbers are staggering. So I'm riding the wave with my sellers. And if you are a seller or a buyer and haven't gotten to the finish line yet, I understand your pain. Us realtors sometimes take on that stress ourselves too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Tough times make tough people, and the humbling thing about this market is the adjustments you have to make. Like, it used to be like clockwork. We get the stager and get the photos in, we'd probably be sold in a week or two, and now that's just not happening. And I remember even that house that you and I went and appraised, that older lady, and she thought it was worth, yeah. So
Tell it from the
I
beginning.
said it was. Well, it was a lock of a listing. Like, we had the lockbox on everything, and she was like, she loved Brooke, and I did my analysis, and I said it was worth 725,000, and she was going to an old folks home. I'll give her that, and she needed as much money as she could get, and I sent her the reasons why it was 725, but she was like 850, and Brooke and I chatted about it, and we agreed we would go 850, but we had to revisit the price pretty soon. Like, if we weren't getting the activity, and things weren't happening, we would adjust the price more towards where we thought it should be. And
And
she
time will
quickly,
make.
oh, go ahead.
I think it was another agent in her ear that had given her the 850 number. So I think she
No,
was stuck on.
she called another agent, I think. So
Hmm.
she was stuck on 850. Then she called a big team in. This is why I always say the big teams probably don't have your best interest in mind, the massive ones. And they told her what she wanted to hear, and it was 850. And then she went from 850, she dropped it to
So they
700,000.
didn't use us, which we already had a lockbox. We already had, we were almost there. We just needed the signature. And so she emailed saying, I want somebody that better understands the market because you
We were too
undervalue
young. Yeah.
might be too young. And so I've been doing this for 10 years. I live and breathe real estate. So it was offensive to receive that email. I wished her luck, but she essentially said, I'm going to work with somebody that knows the market more because you undervalued my home by 125,000 and that is concerning to me. So, continue your story.
Wait, so she went with the other agent. They were with the other agent. She was at 850,000. She dropped to 799. Then she dropped to 699 and held offers. Didn't get an offer. Then she was up at 699, just sitting there. She ended up terminating the listing. I don't know what happened with her. Obviously, I still wish her the best, but it's just, I told her the truth early, and I bet you we would have been sold and pretty much closed already if she just listened to my 725 number. When you start so high, you're just catching a falling knife. Your listing becomes stale. Buyers wonder what's wrong with it. They've moved on. The market's gotten worse since then. So that was a tough experience. I remember, like, for a few days I was like, maybe I was questioning my pricing. Maybe I was really off. And then I feel bad that she didn't get what she wanted, but I also feel good that my numbers were solid and that I can look myself in the mirror and say that I gave her the right numbers, and I wasn't willing to lie to somebody just to get a listing. Although we were willing to take it at a higher price, the truth was I never thought it was worth that, and I knew we would be having a conversation sooner than later about her being priced too high, and here we are.
Sometimes sellers, and that's why it's like I don't like to take overpriced listings, which is why I set the tone to, okay, we'll try it at your price. Because sometimes you have to show the sellers that it isn't worth what they think it is, and they will find an agent to list it. So, in working in their best interest, I sometimes say, okay, we'll try it at your price. I give a time frame typically, and I verbally have them agree that if it's not working and they know I'm doing everything I can, their XYZ is done and we're not seeing results, then we try my price.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take an overpriced listing if they said that was their bottom because then that's just a waste of my time. So,
Yeah, it's a waste, and your marketing resources as well.
oh yeah. So I always take what the seller thinks their home is worth into an account. It's usually always more.
Yeah.
um, some sellers are quite reasonable in and know kind of bang on what it's worth, especially if they follow the data. But sometimes you have to test it because there were markets where you did get lucky.
Hmm.
You put a
A
price
lot of,
tag
yeah,
on
100%.
there wasn't a lot of inventory and they paid what you asked. I mean, in reason, I'm not talking a couple 100,000 over what it's worth,
For
but
sure.
within reason, there was a time where lack of inventory allowed for those new precedented prices if you were to just try and test the market. Obviously, it's not that now, but yeah, it's
Yeah, it's different now. I've got
that's
some I got a good couple stories here too. So my one friend does a bunch of B lending and he's got me on some power sales. So I've never really dove into this avenue, but I've obviously, I'm grateful for the business and you basically you're just listing the home and then you're trying to get it sold, right? But the hard part with the power of sales is like there's tenants in there. So what I've done is I'm driving to the homes and I'm trying to meet the tenants saying, hey, your landlord has stopped paying their mortgage. I'm representing the lender. So I'm going to be putting this house up for sale. And you kind of explain the process to them and everything like that. And all the tenants have been really good. But it reminds me of the movie The Big Short
mm,
when there's a point where one of the main actors is talking to the tenant and he's like, what do you mean, man? Like I've been paying my rent. What do you mean my landlord's not paying the mortgage? And I don't think it's going to get as bad as 2008. I think that's a hard prediction to make, but it felt eerily similar where they were kind of like, what do you like? I've been paying my rent. What do you mean? Like what's going on? And yeah, I had one of the people who own one of the homes call me
mm,
and kind of, I could tell their frustration at the beginning of the phone call. They're really mad and, you can't do this. What do you mean? And I was like, well, have you been paying your loans? And she goes, well, my sister takes care of it. And then I go, okay, well, she's like, there's no loan on this house. And I'm like, yeah, but this house was used as collateral for the loan that she took. And she was kind
mm.
of putting the pieces together. And I was like, look, I don't want to sell your family home. I truly don't.
Oh,
But
that's
I have to act in the best interest of the lender. My best advice to you, obviously, find some representation, talk to a lawyer. And the best thing you can do is every waking hour that you have, try to figure out how to pay this loan back because they've been pushing it off. Like trust me, they've had a lot of time to figure this out and they've just been pushing it off, probably doing other things. And that's what I said to her. I said, spend every waking hour you have trying to figure out how to pay this back because you might have thought it was going to go away, but it's not going away. Like you need to figure this out. And she actually took it really well. She was like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to call my sister and we're going to get on this and figure this out. We've put it off too long. So yeah, it's the power of sales. You can see them at least on the Toronto Real Estate Board. Cause I know a lot of other areas are doing pretty well, but on the Toronto Real Estate Board, you're seeing power of sales in terms of like in the description increase. We were talking about this last week. And that's kind of what I see as a theme is, and I don't really see them as like the main house, like like someone defaults with a bank. It's more
oh,
of these
that's
people who
so
took on,
interesting.
they took on too much leverage. So they
Mhm.
got a B lender. They thought, oh, I'll buy this pre-con here, buy this pre-con there. And then now the interest, because on the B loans, they're a lot higher than what the bank will give you.
Yeah.
They're just getting eaten away. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. I'm still seeing people buy. There's still deals getting done, but it's harder to sell a house. If you have buyers, you can negotiate. You can get a really good deal versus what we saw. I'm not saying, everyone's. It's a great time to buy. It's a better time to buy than it has been in the last 5 years. Let's just put it that way.
It's a much better. Like some of these prices I'm seeing, and I'm just checking here how many solds happened in the last couple days. Like, because realistically, how many solds would happen per day in Hamilton and Halton?
Uh, that's an interesting question.
Wow. This is I don't know the before, but it looks like in all of Hamilton and all of Halton, so that is probably around what's the population? That's probably around 1,000,000 people. Oakville has 250, Burlington has probably around the same, and then Hamilton is 5, close to 600. So it's probably about 1,100,000 people. 24 sales happened.
Wow,
I mean, it is slower
that's
time. Not a lot of people are looking, but
yeah. So if you want to be a seller, you got to be priced like there's no.
the
Let's test the
standout.
market. Yeah, you
You
got to
gotta
stand out. Yeah, you got to be a pretty good listing. But anyways, let's move on to some better news. I'm going to open up a little tab here for you to go over. I wouldn't say better news, but I mean more optimistic news for the BOC. Sorry, let me just move this little.
Were you expecting the Bank of Canada to hold its rate?
Yeah, I was, because the big reason why I was expecting it was because Polymarket actually, it was like a 98%. It was like a 98% that they're going to hold.
Polymarket. To anybody that doesn't know Polymarket, it is just, I guess, a
It's a
betting
really good.
platform kind of thing, but it's
Yeah,
for the
it's
state,
kind of.
or is it the world or the states?
It's the world. The world can bet on it, which is pretty cool, to be honest. So, it's pretty accurate, to be honest.
Crazy.
But anyways, yeah, go ahead. Can you see this headline I got here? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So the Bank of Canada holds rates, says economy looks better than expected despite tariffs. So that contradicts a lot of what we just said, but that is a good. So it is coming from somewhere. So why don't we scroll down? I'll just give a little
Do the summary
update here. Yeah. So currently the Bank of Canada overnight rate is 2.25%. They held it at that as expected. I also didn't see a lot of media come out about this rate announcement. It kind of flew under the radar, if I'm being honest, because people were anticipating, well, a rate drop the last Bank of Canada announcement. So I think that the majority of people thought that it would stay at 2.25. I mean, it is a reasonable overnight rate if we're looking to keeping inflation in check, if the economy is being as resilient as it shows to be against these tariffs. So Tiff Macklem, the governor of the Bank of Canada, says the economy was proving more resilient to tariffs. Okay, I just said that. Macklem reiterates policy rate at about the right level, and U.S. Federal Reserve likely to announce rate cut on Wednesday. It would
Which
be
they did. They announced a rate cut today.
Okay, and so what is their overnight rate? Do you know?
It's a lot higher than ours. I think it's in
Always
the
is
fours.
high. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 4. It might be 4.25, or it's 4 to 4.25. I remember they do it a bit differently than we do. Like they kind of give a range of where they want to be.
Right.
I know that he was saying, Jerome Powell, who's like our Tiff Macklem, was saying, like, because our central bank, the Bank of Canada, only focuses on inflation, but the Federal Reserve in the States focuses on employment and inflation. So they focus on both. So the employment levels in the U.S. are a little bit worrisome. So they're kind of fighting this, like the seesaw almost. Like they're worried about unemployment rate, but they're also worried about inflation ticking up, especially because some of the tariffs. This is what Jerome Powell was saying. I'm not going to pretend to be some economist here, knowing if the tariffs cause inflation or not. I think they do, a little bit at least. So, so I think that the U.S. their inflation rate is still higher than ours. So that's kind of what they're worried about. So you're kind of battling this unemployment problem as well as this inflation problem. So they're looking at that, but
so it's like a
anyways,
balance.
I think why this isn't making headlines is because it's just boring, right? It's like, oh, they held, right?
This isn't
There's no change.
The quarter annualized GDP grew by 2.6%, much more than anticipated or much more than expected. That is interesting because if you ask the masses right now, I think most people would not think that our economy is growing by more than expected right now. Anyways, that being said, go ahead. Go ahead before I finish.
Sorry. I think the GDP grew apparently because of oil exports. So Canada exported more oil, which was good. And then the unemployment data was better than expected. But what it kind of showed when you dug into it was that a lot more part-time jobs increased, which I think is seasonality due to Christmas.
Yes.
And then we lost some full-time jobs. So I don't it kind of, the headline looked better than it really was. Not to be a doomer, but when I dove into it more, that's what I saw.
Interesting. I was always interested in knowing what new jobs were added to the labor market. So it essentially states here on this article, the economy added 181,000 new jobs between September and November. That is a lot between 2 months. 90,000 a month.
It is a lot.
What it's saying. That is heading into the holiday season. Now I can think of other seasonal things that open up, ski hills, that sort of thing, but then summer activity shut down. So it does always interest me what type of jobs these are. Like, are these, there's still a lack of people building in Toronto, so I don't think it's a lot of trade workers. Like, I would be interested to know what the majority of that number is. They don't
Yeah,
really.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, maybe we'll bring that up next week. But yeah, I think it's kind of, let's just see where this goes into next year sort of thing. Like, we're kind of wrapping up 2025. It was an interesting year. A lot happened. Like, we had a provincial election, at least in Ontario. We had, the whole federal election with Carney coming in and a big change of hands. And now we got to see where this economy is going to take us. I guess it's good to see the Bank of Canada say that we've been resilient to tariffs. Hopefully that continues. It feels like Ontario hasn't been too resilient to it. Obviously, bordering the U.S. in a big way makes it a bit more complicated for our auto sector for sure. But I guess let's see where this goes in relationship to real estate. I'll share another one here. So Dan Foch posted this. So usually, let me know if you can see it. Okay, but usually, real estate firms are very bullish on real estate because they kind of have to be, right? Like their whole business model depends on it. So Dan Foch posted here. So it was an article by Roy LePage, or I think it was the Toronto Star or something like that, but it was on Apple News. So Daniel Foch says, it's getting bad when Roy LePage is seeing downside. Roy LePage projects Toronto area home prices will drop 4.5% by the end of 2026. Prices for GTA single-family detached homes will drop, bucking the national trend. So yeah, the Roy LePage is kind of sticking their neck out there and now saying, these homes are going to fall in price. 4.5% is quite a lot in 1 year. If you do look at, I think we're down.
If your house is worth $1,000, now it's under $950, right? That's
on tax-free money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I talk to people right now, I'm like, for buyers, I'm like, it's probably going to get a bit worse. But if you found that deal, if you feel like it's good, you have job security, hop in. And then for sellers, if they say we're going to wait, I say, do you think, like, is there anything like kind of showing you it's going to get better? And, for the most part, they're always like, well, no, not really. And I was like, okay, well, let's work with what we got today. If you think it's going to be worse, get onto the market now and sell. Right. But a lot of people, and it's psychology, your house was worth 1.5 million at the peak, but you didn't sell. So that's not coming back anytime soon. That was a low rate environment with a lot of money printing and a lot of attention on housing. And I can't see that market coming back for a very long time, if ever. So that's just my 2 cents.
Those are some bold words, if ever. Wow.
Well, maybe with inflation and stuff like that,
on your home's still not going to be worth 1.5.
we'll creep back up, but that market should have never happened, but it did. So it's the psychology of it. It really hurts people, and I understand. You probably understand too. You have houses, and they were worth a big number at some point, and now you kind of look at what you get today for it, and you go, "Dang, I should have sold."
Yeah. With the rate. The rates are back to normal at least. So at least it's not the situation. Like, I was in a worse position prior to this where the rates were much higher and the values were similar. So I was negative cash flow and a ton of my value had been lost based on the market coming down so much. So at least right now I have my properties that are tenanted and they at least are quite even with the rents coming in and the mortgage. So I don't know. Those are long-term plays anyways.
Yeah, especially like the people I'm working with. Yeah, I'm not like the investor class is definitely gone, at least for now. Like I think there is some people like who are more intense where they're building and they're getting the CMHC financing and they're making 6 units. I think those people are kind of in a different league than what we saw. But just with a lot of, buyers right now, it's more the conversation of, don't look at this as like some home run in 3 years like you've seen in the past, right? Like look at this as like, I'm going to live here. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have dinner parties. I'm going to pay down my mortgage. We're going to work together as a couple and and try and spruce up the main bathroom or something like that. Like, look at it as a journey, not this get rich quick that a lot of people saw. So I think it's a good frame of reference to have. It's also a good market. We need to get more young people into the market and not just renting. If that's what people want. Not everybody wants that, but I know a lot of young people do want to own a home. They want to make it their own. They want to do their own work on it. So I really want to get back to that.
Yeah. I have a couple different, because I study the market because I have more free time right now. So I look at what's out there every single day and I look at opportunities. Markets like this, there are a lot of opportunities. So whether you're an investor or a first time buyer or somebody looking to make a jump in terms of, you have a 2,500 square foot house and you want that 3,500 square foot house, and the 2,500 square foot house is kind of at its peak because you've renovated and the most I think it's going to get, but that one's come down. Like there's a lot of, sorry, 5 dogs. Hold on one sec.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
Um, there's a lot of opportunity. So it's definitely worth sitting down with um, either one of us or whoever you trust and saying, "Hey, I'm confused as to what the market is. I have X, Y, and Z. What would you recommend?" Because there's things that we can suggest and guide you toward that maybe you didn't even think of. Maybe it's not about just buying a house. Maybe it's about how do we work out an opportunity in this market? Because these are the markets where if you're a buyer or you're sitting on even small amounts of money right now, there is opportunity everywhere. And I see it every day and I have them all saved. And of course, I'd be happy to even review them on the podcast or a one-on-one Zoom. I think that there's some people that will get wealthy using this market.
Yeah, I don't disagree either. I think that in a long enough time period, if you buy in the right market, it's going to make sense. And I was talking to a guy today, and he really did really well this year. And he said a big thing he did was that a lot of people he worked with them like 5 years ago, and they owned a townhouse, and they talked about making that next jump up to the detached. And what he showed them was, at the peak of the market, you were about a $500,000 delta between if I sold your townhouse today versus the detached, and now that delta is at 300. So he's like, if you look at those numbers, it actually kind of makes more sense. Although you're not getting as much money as you thought for your townhouse, the jump between the two, you're going to take on less debt, which is kind of the goal. And a lot of them, and with that strategy, which in a sense he's right.
Well, that's exactly what I meant by there's opportunity, especially if you want to use a
Exactly.
lateral over, right?
For sure.
There's
For sure.
opportunity
And
everywhere.
I'm telling everyone to let's sell first. It makes more sense. And unless you have the risk tolerance unless your parents have a lot of money or you have no mortgage or something like that, unless you found a plan B. Yeah. Unless you found a plan B, there's no point of losing sleep and you losing sleep.
Yeah,
over,
we leave
over
sleep
this.
as realtors too.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. I'm like, am I ever going to sell that house?
I know, it's so tough. Oh,
All right, my last one here, just kind of talking more again about this more of a buyer's market. So 2025 is the only year in the past 15 years that has been a buyer's market and will end in a buyer's market. He does say affordability still stinks, which it does. It stinks between incomes and house prices. I'm not going to deny that, but you can see by this chart. Basically, your sales to new listings ratio is down at 36%. The closest one looks like it was 43 and 46, which was a couple years before. But even you look back to 2010, 2011, all the way across, your sales to new listings in 2021 at the peak was 76, and you've cut that in half. So that means the sales that are happening versus the new listings coming on the market is very different. So you have a lot more choice as a buyer.
that is an interesting
it's pretty stunning.
statistic. In the last,
and again, this is from Treb.
I would like to read more about that. I think that's an important thing to look at. That's pretty crazy. So does that mean that the next 14 years it's going to stay a buyer's market? Is that the switchover year mark?
Yeah, maybe we're in a buyer's market, but I think in Toronto at least, because I know the other areas, Ottawa is really hot, Montreal is really hot. At least in Toronto, is supply the problem? I don't know anymore. It seems like there's new supply that are outpacing sales all the time.
Yeah. And inventory, what did I say? Inventory was up 16% or something.
Something like that. Yeah. So obviously, if they kept building, if they kept building, obviously we'd see more decline in prices because there would be more inventory. So I'm not saying you need to stop building. No, I still think we should build more. But just looking at this chart here, you can see. So yeah, when people say, is it a good time to buy? This is a great chart to pull up. Look, prices are still, to income, they're still high, but you're going to have a lot more time to look around, have your conditions, negotiate, and try and get a deal. So this is kind of what I tell people. And again, if you feel like 2008's coming, if you feel like your job is secure, then just take a step back. You don't have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways,
that's
right all I got for this week.
You.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully everybody has a good holiday season, despite if you're a part of this market as a seller or a buyer. It is important to try to just take time away from watching all of this media and data that doesn't seem to really stay on a positive note for too long. And hopefully the weather doesn't stay like this. I don't know about you, Cortez, but I don't love a white Christmas. I love a Celsius snow Christmas.
I love a Florida Christmas.
I love a Florida Christmas. That's so funny. Actually, speaking of that, I'll be away next week from Monday to Friday, and I will be in Florida. It was a spontaneous family vacation because
amazing.
This is, and realistically, it's the only time that realtors can really take vacation is around Christmas time. It's realistically the slowest time of year. So, yeah, I don't anticipate a lot of activity happening with my listings or my current, batch of buyers and sellers. But of course, realtors. Hey, realtors that go on vacation usually get really busy the moment they land. That's just that's how it works.
I hope that happens for you.
The minute your realtor takes a vacation, they get swamped. It's just it's a curse that happens to us realtors. So let's see. Maybe I'll sell a couple things next week.
Well, you know what? Enjoy your time off. You do deserve it, and don't let people stress you out. And yeah, we appreciate all the support, guys. If you do want to work with myself and Brooke, check out our websites down below. We'd love to kind of, see what you got going on even to the new year. And like we said, we're not too busy right now. So if you want to book a call, we could definitely hop on and chat and kind of see what your goals are. But yeah, other than that, we will try and do an episode before the new year, just talking about predictions. I think that'll be fun. And then we will keep this thing going.
Be doing it from Florida, which would be nice. But let's continue doing Wednesday, because I think people will like that we have a schedule now, so you can expect us to put out our episode at the same time every week.
I agree. That's awesome. All right, guys. Yeah. We'll see you next week, and then Brooke will be in Florida, so we can all envy her. All right, take care, guys. Bye.
Okay, see you, everyone.